family is Moses, right? They're brothers, right? They're from the Levite tribe. Means what? Good answers? Yeah. Well, first of all, Levi was one of what? Jacob's sons. Was he not? And the tribe of Levi, right? God dedicated to the work, right, of being the priests, right? The family, right? So obviously they're not. Let me restate that. The Levite priests, meaning this isn't the first time we've heard the word priest, right? I think a few weeks ago we talked about Jethro. Remember Jethro? Who is he? Remember, he was Moses' wife's dad, priest of Midian. Now, there's another one we've talked about in the past. I know I taught on this some. Remember, there was Melchizedek. Remember, if you ever read in Hebrews, they talk about earlier about Melchizedek. And remember, Melchizedek was a priest and a king, right? Salem. So, it wasn't as if Aaron was the first priest, right? And we know there are a lot of false priests, a lot of false prophets, a lot of false nonsense out there. But the priesthood, right, the role of the priesthood was even at one point in the family. It was, right, in the family. Part of the father's role in his family was to fulfill that job, right? We would hope. There would be somebody in that family, there would be a role model, right? Well, anyway, this week we're going to talk about the Levite priesthood. And God establishes it, right, through Aaron and his 4 sons. The first series of, well, actually, priests, right? Let me be careful how I say that. Aaron is the first high priest. And his sons were stewards to Aaron, right? But they had a very specific clothing that they wore to identify who they were and what their job was. Not only Aaron, but his sons. We had 4. We'll talk about those. But that's not all of the Levite tribe. Heaven forbid. There's a whole bunch more that are going to have to help do some of this work. Because, you know, for all these people, how many we have? Well, a lot, right? Well, we could say, remember at one point 600,000 men left Egypt, the men only, right? Didn't say anything about the women or the children, etc., right? So we got probably a couple million at least, right? So when we establish the priesthood, right, what also are we continuing to do? We'll be continuing to make sacrifices, right? And guess who does all that work? Well, all you got to do is bring your animal. Okay? But the priests and their stewards, right, the workers, they take care of the hard part, right? You just need to come with a, what? Repentant heart. One thing I read in this lesson, I didn't know. I don't know. I haven't watched it. I didn't see it on a movie. But they said that when the person who brings in their sacrifice, your animal, right? And they take it to the altar. Now, I wasn't there and I didn't see this. I just read this. They said that the person would be responsible for holding the head down of the animal, right? As if they were, I mean, nothing magic here. I'm just saying it was their responsibility, right, to be a participant in that activity. They didn't just bring in and say, he's out in the back of the truck going loading, right? They had some responsibility here. Okay. So anyway, all these people, all the time, and let me tell you, there was more than one sacrifice. It was more than once a year. There was an atonement, a day of atonement once a year they talked about, right? But there are lots of sacrifices throughout the year, and there's a lot of work that gets done in this tabernacle, all right? And we saw some pictures last week. I may have seen them throw one up, but there's a fence around this tabernacle, right? It's kind of like it looks like it's almost a ball field, right? And you have the building there, and the building, it's a tent. It's separated into two parts, right? One area is where the priest does most of his, that picture. Right? There's one part of that building that nobody goes into except the high priest once a year on the Day of Atonement. Right? And there's only one thing we know of it's in there. It's the Ark of the Covenant. Right? But outside that tent, outside of that one part of the tent, the priest does a whole lot of other stuff. Does his, what they call ministering, right? What's into my picture? I was sitting there looking for it. Anyway, this gate that goes around, they call that the, what is that? No. Help me with that. The tabernacle of the congregation. Kind of a long word, right? But there's only one door to get in. You come in that way, right? But throughout this, it's not necessarily where people just go, let's go hang out at church, right? And there's a lot of serious stuff that's going in on this, okay? So anyway, this big gate around there, it closes this tabernacle of the congregation. But here's the building where all the work gets done, up here. Now, and there's some stuff outside here. This is going to sound like a history lesson, but it's not, because this lesson really brought this into picture to me with what this role of this priest is. Because ultimately today, you might go to different, I hate to say denominations, but other places or locations, even this morning, right, who have priests, right, they would claim would be necessary for you to go through to receive forgiveness. We only have one, right? And who's that? Jesus Christ, the high priest, okay? So, in this lesson this week, as we begin to read, we're talking about the high priest. We're talking about his sons. It's actually going to even talk about the clothes that they wear. We might have mentioned that a little bit last week, right? How important it was, every single article of clothing that they wore and the job that they fulfilled. So when people saw them, they knew what they did, right? Even his boys, okay? Let's read just a little bit. Chapter 28. And take thou unto thee Aaron, thy brother. This is the Lord talking to Aaron, right? And his sons with him, from amongst the children of Israel, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. Okay, so the priest's office is like what? This is the other side of the tent there, right? Where they got lots of work to do, right? At least that's my interpretation, right? He may minister unto me in the priest's office, even Aaron. That is Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, Aaron's sons. Okay? Now, we're going to get to this point later. So, the objective here is to define the Levite priesthood. And when Aaron dies, someone fills his shoes, which would naturally be one of his sons. Okay? So one of these guys do that. Long story made short, it's Eleazar, right? But that's not part of today's lesson. Verse 2 says, thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron and thy brother for glory and for beauty. So the clothes that they're going to wear is not just tough skin jeans, right? To make sure you don't wear holes in them. It's for glory and it's for beauty. Everything they do, touch, sacrifice, is for the Lord. And their clothes will demonstrate what their role is. Thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted. I thought you all said something. Okay. And thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments. Okay? They're going to make his clothes for him. To consecrate him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. Now, what's consecrate mean? Set aside as sacred. Okay? Now, we know that one word. What is that word? I'll get to it here in a minute. I'll read it here in a minute. But that's what consecration does, right? You're going to set him aside. Even with his clothing, set him aside as sacred, right? In his role. Verse 4, and these are the garments which they shall make. Okay, we talked about this last week, and I gave Sam another picture, but I want to touch base on it just quickly. And I say this because this is more than a history lesson. This is the details that God gave Aaron about the clothes they should be making for him in the job that he's going to fulfill. Okay? These are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate and an ephod and a robe and a broidered coat, a mitre and a girdle, and they shall make holy garments for Aaron, thy brother, what? And his sons, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. And they shall take gold and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen. I don't have any of that stuff at my house. But I sent you one picture, Sam. I'm trying to make this quick, okay? Now this is not really Aaron. This is a guy posing as Aaron, just to let you know. Okay, just wanted to go through this quickly. This ephod we talked about, all right? Now this blue robe right here, this is this ephod. To me, it has to be blue because who said? God said. And they're going to make it blue. And when they see this guy, I don't know if anybody else is wearing blue, but Aaron will be wearing it, okay? Now, not his sons. This is not Aaron's sons. This is just Aaron. This is the high priest, okay? Now, there's this thing called, that robe they refer to as ephod. But look at this breastplate. I talked about this last week. I'm going to hurry through it. The breastplate has 12 stones, one for each tribe of Jacob. 12 of them. Now, on his shoulders, I think it's on his shoulders, they have these onyx stones. Supposed to be one on each shoulder. And on one shoulder it has 6 of the tribe's names. On the other one has the other 6 of the tribe's names. Okay? We're going to read that in a minute. I didn't just make that up. Okay? Then all this other stuff. This word mitre, that's basic. What do they call it there? A turban? That's what a mitre is. It's a hat. So he's going to wear a hat. It's supposed to look like this, have a gold band around it and all this stuff. Okay? Now, let me read it. And they shall make the ephod, it's the blue rain, of blue, right? Of gold, of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, fine twined linen, and cunning works. It shall have the 2 shoulder pieces, therefore joined at the 2 edges thereof, so it shall be joined together, right? He's talking about your neck hole, right? How do you get it on? Put it over your head, tied together, okay? Not a lot of detail there, but let's go on verse 8. The curious girdle of the ephod, okay? This is your girdle. Any of you men wear girdles. That's what one looks like, the blue one, okay? And there's something at the bottom. This is a terrible picture, but there's something at the bottom of the girdle. And even if you zoom in, Sam, you can't see it, but there's something there. You can see it, right? Specific details about that. Curious girdle of the ephod which is upon it shall be of the same, according to the work thereof, even of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen. He said, thou shalt take 2 onyx stones, grave on them the names of the children of Israel. 6 of their names on one stone, 6 on the, and the other 6 names of the rest on the other stone, according to their birth. With the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravings of a signet, shalt thou engrave the 2 stones with the names of the children of Israel. Thou shalt make them to be set in ouches of gold, pouches, pockets. Okay? Thou shalt put the 2 stones upon the shoulders of the ephod for stones of memorial unto the children of Israel. And Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord upon his shoulders for a memorial Okay.
You think this thing would weigh 200 pounds or something. But when you see the picture, it doesn't look that
It doesn't look that bad?
No.
I know some pictures look like their hat looks like it's this big, right? I don't know. This is someone's, just to give you an idea, right? This is just,
I just think about the king and queen of England.
yeah.
All that pomp and stuff that they do. All the fancy, outfits and everything. And the Lord has this guy wearing this thing. Which is really, probably in person, would be really beautiful.
And that's part of the objective, right? The Bible said, for glory and honor. Okay? I think he may get his hands a little dirty, right? But don't forget he's got a lot of help doing that. Everything that he does throughout this ministry, right, begins when they walk in the door. Not just him, but him and his sons, right? And it gets ugly real fast, right? Bulls, rams, sheep. What's their purpose when they come in the door? To be slaughtered, sacrificed. The blood, the meat, the fat, above the kidneys, below the kidneys. Some of it burned. Some of it burnt. Huh? Could you imagine? All of this replaced by what? The blood of Jesus Christ. One sacrifice for all. Not all sacrifices. Right? But those, don't forget, for just annual forgiveness of that year's sins. Okay, let me continue. I think I was in 12. And thou shalt put the 2 stones upon the shoulders of the ephod for stones of memorial. Okay, unto the children of Israel. Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord upon his shoulders for memorial. I said that. Okay. Thou shalt make ouches of gold, and 2 chains of pure gold at the ends. Of wreathen work shalt thou make them, and fasten wreathen chains to the pouches. Okay, all they are doing there is basically saying how this is all going to fit together. Can you believe this? Okay. This thing on his chest, they call a breastplate. That's what holds these 12 stones. All right? And it's got all this series of instructions too, how to make these. Thou shalt make the breastplate of judgment with cunning work. After the work of the ephod, thou shalt make it of gold, blue, purple, scarlet, of fine twined linen. Thou shalt make it. He said, 4 square it shall be, being doubled. A span shall be the length thereof. A span shall be the breadth thereof. It shall set in it settings of stones, even 4 rows, meaning that is 4 rows of stones. The first row shall be a sardius, a topaz, and a carbuncle. This shall be the first row. Second row shall be an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. Third row, a ligure, an agurate, an amethyst. Amethyst? I don't know all these, but that's at least 12, right? Now that's, what, 9? Fourth row, a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper, and they shall be set in gold in their enclosings. Stones shall be with the names of the children of Israel. 12 according to their names, like engravings of a signet. Every one with his name shall be according to the 12 tribes. Okay. Thou shalt make upon the breastplate chains at the ends of the wreathen work of pure gold. Thou shalt make upon the breastplate 2 rings of gold. Thou shalt put the 2 rings on the ends of the breastplate. Thou shalt put the 2 wreathen chains of gold in the 2 rings which are on the ends of the breastplate. Judy. Detail, right? These are God's instructions to them. How to make the clothes for this guy who's fulfilling the role of high priest. If you don't know who the high priest is, what? Or you don't know what role he's playing, you probably aren't getting your stuff sacrificed or your sins forgiven. The other two ends of the two wreathen chains shalt fasten in the two ouches. Put them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod before it. I'm going to jump to verse 29. Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel in the breastplate of judgment upon his heart when he goeth in unto the holy place, for a memorial before the Lord continually. Meaning what? He don't go anywhere without. Anywhere outside of the tabernacle does Aaron go without this on. Okay? Now verse 30 is interesting, okay? And thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Thummim. Thummim, right? And they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goeth in before the Lord. Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually. Now, has anybody ever seen a Urim and Thummim? I don't either. Matter of fact, Sunday school lesson said we're not really quite sure what they are. Doesn't say it's a type of, it doesn't necessarily say it's a type of stone or a type of jewel or a type of, it doesn't really say. But it's hidden inside. I get the impression, just what I read, it's almost like, I don't know this is true, but it has to be close to Aaron's heart. It's almost as if he's got a pocket inside, where he puts them. A Urim and a Thummim. Now, there was this thing in the lesson, I don't know if Jim saw this. There's this theologian, smart guy, right? Did you see that part in the lesson? He went to his, spiritual leader, right? And asked him about the Urim and the Thummim. He said, what do you know about these? I can't find anything to tell me more, right? At least in the scripture he'd read. And the spiritual leader just said, you know what I do? He said, I take the Urim and I replace the R with the S. And I get use them. And Thummim, I put a G on the end. When I get my Bible out, I use them and I thumb them. I get everything I need. And that keeps me close to the Lord. That's what he said. Now that was just a little 30 lines of stuff I thought was kind of interesting the way they had expressed that there. But I don't know much more about the Urim and Thummim. But there's something about that and the role that they played in Aaron's job that he did. He never went in, right? He said, when he goeth in before the Lord, and Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart. Meaning what? He takes his job pretty seriously. Will he not? Before the Lord. Continually. Okay? Now, let's jump in here. Thou shalt make the robe of the ephod of blue. I want to kind of get past some of this because I want to get to another section here. There shall be a hole in the top of it. In the midst thereof it shall have a binding of woven work round about the hole. Okay? Now, in verse 34, it's talking about this ephod. Okay? A golden, 33. And beneath upon the hem of it, thou shalt make pomegranates of blue and of purple and of scarlet round about the hem thereof, and bells of gold between them round about. Now, what's a pomegranate? I mean, huh? No, it's actually a plant, a fruit. Yeah, it is. All I know is every now and then I see this shampoo that shows up on in my shower. It says pomegranate. on it. Yeah? I don't eat them, but you're right. There's probably some. Yeah? Anyway, I don't think they're really hanging the fruit, right, as much as they're hanging at least some resemblance of. But beneath the hem, thou shalt make pomegranates of blue and of purple and of scarlet round about the hem thereof, and bells of gold between them round about. So around the bottom of the skirt, he's got bells, pomegranate, bell, pomegranate, bell, pomegranate, bell, pomegranate. So you can hear him walk, right? We talked about this last week. A golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate upon the hem of the robe round about. He said, and it shall be upon Aaron to minister. His sound shall be heard when he goeth in unto the holy place before the Lord, and when he cometh out, that he die not. So we talked about this, what, Butch? If he goes in there, the bell stopped ringing. He's probably dead, right? And you know what? How easily that could happen. If you are a man representing God as the holy, highest priest. There's only been one perfect enough. So, because he's a man, there are some things that he could have done that day, that hour, that month, year, whatever, that would have made him unclean for this service, right? So their cleanness, their dress, was very critical in their job that they did. Everything they did.
You mentioned that there's two scriptures in here that tells them how to make the robe and everything for Aaron, and it says it's made for glory and beauty. Two different places we've read here. So he wanted to make sure it was presentable to the congregation. It wouldn't be, they wouldn't, you say, in their normal everyday clothing that they wore, they wouldn't stand out. Wouldn't know who he was.
Right.
So they had to make the clothing so it would stand out amongst the congregation.
Verse 36, thou shalt make a plate of pure gold, engrave upon it like the engravings of a signet, holiness to the Lord. They're talking about the hat now that he's wearing. Yeah. Okay? Even the hat. Thou shalt put on it blue lace, that it may be upon the mitre. Upon the forefront of the mitre it shall be. I'm reading these quickly. But it shall be upon Aaron's forehead. Aaron may wear the iniquity of the holy things, which the children of Israel shall hallow in all their holy gifts, shall be always upon his forehead, that they be accepted for the Lord. Okay? And thou shalt embroider the coat of fine linen, and thou shalt make the mitre of fine linen, and thou shalt make the girdle of needlework. Okay, that's the details of the piece. Sandy's not in here. She'd probably get into all the seamstress. But now in verse 40, he begins to talk about his sons, right? And for Aaron's sons, thou shalt make coats. Thou shalt make for them girdles and bonnets shalt thou make for them, for glory and for what, Butch? Beauty. Thou shalt put them upon Aaron thy brother and his sons with him, shalt anoint them, consecrate them, and sanctify them, that they may minister unto me, this is God, right? In the priest's office. So what are they going to do? They're going to anoint them? Do what? Rub a little oil on them? In so many words, right? Consecrate them, set them aside for sacred purpose and sanctify them. There you go, Randy. That's this. Separate them. Thou shalt make, verse 42, thou shalt make them linen breeches. I love this verse. I want you to know where I'm breeches. Linen breeches. There you go. Thou shalt make linen breeches to cover their nakedness. Their nakedness. I mean, I didn't get into their attire, but it was kind of loose, flowing.
Their normal clothes was loose.
Yeah. Now, what are breeches? Breeches. What are breeches?
Underwear.
Well, yeah.
That's what we used to say.
Get your breeches on, right? Mm-hmm. So these guys, everybody didn't, but these guys did. They wore breeches. Specifically directed by God, okay? Get this. Thou shalt make them linen breeches to cover their nakedness from the loins, even unto the thighs they shall reach. Meaning what? They're like, what do they call boy shorts? Or what are those girls wear now? Or they come to me knockers? Yeah, with no. Hey, why is this even important? Now let's just get down. All right, Nancy, help me. Cover their nakedness. You're doing God's work. Don't give anybody an excuse. Don't give them any opportunity to dirty up anything that's going on here. Distract them.
It's called lust.
Is that it?
Take away all the lust.
That's it. Okay, here's the deal. And I don't know this is the case, but they have these altars, right? I don't know how tall it is. I don't know how big it is. I know they're constantly doing this. You know, I don't know, right? I get the impression that sometime in the work that they do, I mean, getting a cow up on the altar or a calf, whatever, holding it down, you know, there could be just in some awkward positions. God said, keep this clean, right? Let's make sure we're doing this purely, right? Is that okay?
Sure.
Why not?
Just standard.
You guys have daughters? Did you raise any? You didn't. Raise any daughters?
You didn't. Your mother did.
This has nothing to do with my daughters, but as a father, I tell you what, there's certain things that I have in my set of rules. They're not God's, but hopefully they. Does, doesn't it? Okay. Let's go. I love that verse, though. I think people just read over it. Don't even think about it. Why those guys got pants? Nobody else. Not because they're special. It's because the work they do. Yeah. In the line of work they do. Their work, the work they're doing is what? They're sacrificing the best for the best.
For the sins of the whole world. Or the congregation that's there.
Yeah. Let me go on. And they shall be upon Aaron and upon his sons. And when they come into the tabernacle of the congregation, or when they come near unto the altar to minister in the holy place, that they bear not, what? Iniquity. Right?
Yeah.
Right. They bear not iniquity. And what? What's the next word? And die. It shall be a statute forever unto him and his seed after him. Okay. Anyway, enough said there. Let's look at chapter 29. I know we're not going to get all this done, especially in 6 minutes. And this is the thing for thou shalt do unto them to hallow them. What? Hallow. Hallowed be thy name. All right? Hallow. To.
Honor and lift up.
And this is the thing that thou shalt do unto them to hallow them. To minister unto me. Minister unto me. Why? Who's me? It's God. To minister unto me in the priest's office, take 1 young bullock, 2 rams without blemish, leavened bread and cakes unleavened, tempered with oil, and wafers unleavened, anointed with oil. Of wheaten flour shalt thou make them. Thou shalt put them into 1 basket and bring them in the basket with a bullock and 2 rams. Okay, the next 2 little sections or 3 sections is going to talk about what they're going to do, right? With a bullock and a couple ram. I guess that could be a sheep or a goat, right? In order to anoint these guys in their preparation for their role, okay? Now, I'm going to jump ahead, okay, a little bit. And I'm not totally leaving Aaron and his boys naked, but there is one section I want to talk about. And this is all over in chapter 30. Just turn over to chapter 30. I haven't forgotten anything. What you need to do is just read everything from there to the rest of that to the end, and we'll jump into chapter 30. Okay? Remember last week we were talking about all my picture's gone, but remember all that furniture we were making for the tent, right? We made the Ark of the Covenant. We made the candle, right? Had 7 branches, right? With the bulbs and the almonds. And we talked about how often it burns. Now, I mistakenly last week said it burns 24/7. I'm wrong. It burns in the evening, okay? And what happens, at least based on these scriptures, I understand. So what happens is they make sure that it burns all night long so you can see in there in the dark, okay? In the morning, the priests come in, and what do? What do you do with your oil lamps? Blow it out and trim your wick. Okay? So it has to go out for at least some period of time. But there's another piece of furniture in there that they made. They refer to this the atonement. It's a altar outside of the holiest of holy place where they burn incense. Okay? And I'm going to read this real quick. Thou shalt make an altar to burn incense upon. Of shittim wood shalt thou make it. Okay? Cubit shall be the length thereof, a cubit the breadth thereof, 4 square shall it be, and 2 cubits shall be the height thereof, and the horns thereof shall be of the same. Okay, all this, remember last week we were talking about what? What's a cubit? Yeah. Okay. So it's something, I don't know, it maybe look like, maybe it's not this big. Maybe it's smaller, right? And they're talking about horns, and they put horns on every corner. Up here, table. That's a table. Oh, up here in the far right. That's probably. I think in the far right would be something like that. Okay. That's what they're talking to. Now it doesn't look like anything, right? But let me tell you about it. Thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, the top thereof and the sides thereof round about. I gotta hurry up. Okay. And the sides thereof round about, and the horns thereof, and thou shalt make unto it a crown of gold round about. We talked about this a week, right? They decorated these things. Do a little crown molding on it. 2 golden rings shalt thou make unto the crown of it by the 2 corners thereof. On the 2 sides of it shalt thou make, and they shall be for places for the staves to bear it. So they carry it around with the staves. Okay. I'm going to jump down below, okay? A few verses. Verse 7. And Aaron shall burn thereon sweet incense every morning when he dresseth the lamps. When he what? Pops them out, trims the lamps. Okay. When he dressed the lamps, he shall burn incense upon it. And when Aaron lighteth the lamps at even, meaning what? In the evening, right? He shall burn incense upon it, a perpetual incense before the Lord throughout your generations. Ye shall offer no strange incense thereon, no burnt sacrifice, nor meat offering. Neither shall ye pour drink offering thereon. Verse 10. And Aaron shall make an atonement upon the horns of it once in a year. Now, an atonement. There you go. Once in a year with the blood of the sin offering of atonement. Once in a year shall he make atonements upon it throughout your generations. It is most holy unto the Lord. Okay? So this thing he's daily and nightly burning incense on. Make sure you understand that these are God's words, right? And this furniture that they've made, right, has these horns on every corner. I don't know what they look like. I don't know if they're really horns or they're just made of wood, made of shittim. I don't know, or I guess they're covered with gold. But annually, Aaron will put the blood of the sacrifice of the Day of Atonement on those horns. He don't make sacrifices on this. Okay, I got to read this section, and I'm going to quit. Because this was so good. I was reading this, I'm like, okay, this is a lot of detail in it, Jim. There was a section in our study book. I usually don't read much out here. I wanted to read it on page 141, so bear with me and think about this real good. Okay. Yet once a year Aaron made atonement on the horns of this altar, okay, by putting blood on the horns of the altar. The offering of atonement itself was made at the brazen altar, however. The offering, meaning what? The sacrifice was made somewhere else. The blood, okay, was used. Here we go. That this piece of furniture is not described until chapter 30 is significant. I mean, we talked last week, several chapters back, about all this furniture we built. And all of a sudden they're talking about this thing where they burn incense on. We might have expected to find it in chapter 25 with the table of showbread and the candlestick. However, before there can be worship, there must be atonement for sin and a priesthood to offer sacrifices. Hence, these are introduced between chapters 25 and 30. In a sense, a golden altar is the climax of the tabernacle system. It is the goal of all else. Worship of God, prayer and praise. Anybody else's arm hairs standing up? Sorry. Is the goal of all else. Worship of God and prayer and praise. He said, yet there could be no daily worship without the atonement of sin. Writers often point out that the work of the priest at the golden altar typifies the intercessory work of Christ. So, in a nutshell, I love that section. I should print it, stick it on my wall. What an opportunity it is to get to praise and worship our God for the forgiveness of all the sin, even in my own life, in my own today, right, that I've committed, and He's forgiven me for. So this altar is a place to what? To worship. Thank you, God. Praise you, Lord. Forgive me all you've done. So anyway, that's it for today. So sorry, Jim, I had to skip a few chapters. Love you guys. All right, let me stand. Golly, I ran over. All right. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we're so thankful this morning for all you've done, how you've anointed us, forgiven us, and blessed us, God, with your greatness. Be with us the rest of this service and all we